Tesla China is a problem for every other automaker. Okay. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much for stopping by. Just kidding. Have a seat. Let's talk about this. A news report came out today from Reuters. Let's address it. I have a lot to say here. Reuters this Monday morning reported that Tesla cuts output plan for Shanghai plant for December, according to sources. And it reads that Tesla plans to cut December output of the Model Y at its Shanghai plant by more than 20% from the previous month. Two people with knowledge of electric vehicle makers' production plans said on Monday. However, an hour later after this was published, Tesla China came out and is denying the reports of a production cut in Shanghai. In a statement to Reuters, Tesla said media reports claiming Giga Shanghai would cut December output were untrue, according to Yahoo Finance. And of course, that initial article got a ton of steam in the morning, especially with all the fears around the looming recession, as well as all the different China lockdowns that are happening because of COVID and so on and so forth. And this story came on the heels of Tesla China shipments topping 100,000 in November, which was a record for the region. And of course, Tesla an hour later debunking that story didn't really quell a lot of fears, and there's been a lot of noise around what this implies for Tesla's demand and so on. I think any report that comes out and claims production cuts at Tesla makes zero sense, and let me walk you through why that is. Number one, it's against Tesla's core mission. And for those that are not familiar, this mission is to advance the world to a sustainable transportation future. And it's not to maximize margins. A production cut implies that the business is trying to minimize its workforce and its output to try and make as much money as humanly possible. Or on the flip side, that there are not enough buyers out there in the market to purchase that product. And even though Tesla has come out and said that this report was not true, that initial report of them cutting production, let's still roleplay and see what it would mean if there wasn't enough demand at current levels. Today, we have 1.4 billion cars on the road and 3% of those cars are electric. This means that there's still 97% of vehicles that are not electric yet that will be at some point in the future. And we also have a trend since 2018 where the gas car sales are down, but EV sales are up. Currently, EV adoption is about 13% of the total yearly sales globally. And so this implies that there is an acceleration of EVs being sold into the market to fill that gap that's left by the 97% of 1.4 billion cars that are still not electric. Now let's go ahead and try to roleplay this situation in a recessionary environment where there is less demand. If you're enjoying this content, I would love it if you throw me a like. It helps the YouTube algorithm show this to more people. Thank you very much. These are global sales for all vehicle types from 2019 through 2021. Last year, we ended at about 82 million cars sold globally. Let's assume in a recessionary environment, there's 40 million cars sold. And if we use the figure that we had before, which was 13% EV adoption, that's about 10 million EVs sold. And if you take the signals we're getting from every single automaker going electric, you take the IRA, which is the Inflation Reduction Act that the US has put together to incentivize EV demand, and places like China and Europe that are going hardcore into electrification, this means that even in a recessionary environment where the ceiling of total cars is 40 million per year, there's still a 4x to go from today's levels of about 10 million EVs sold per year. And of course, those 40 million customers are not going to be able to afford a really expensive vehicle, but this is where Tesla is going to have a huge advantage. The conversation is not around demand for EVs, it's about price for EVs. And these are two very unique variables. You need scale to make a lot of cars, and you need the margins, the money you're going to make on those cars to allow you to sell them at a low enough price. Tesla's current production capacity is over 2 million cars per year. It's over 28% margins for its vehicles, and they're generating that scale and margins with two factories that are not ramped in Austin and Berlin. And these figures are enabled by Tesla China and also enhanced by Berlin and Austin coming online. If you compare this to most other automakers, these automakers have negative EV margins and less than 500,000 yearly EV production. And this to me doesn't seem like a winning formula. And so whenever I read stories about production or demand, it's hard for me to not put it through that lens where most of the fleet is still gas cars and there's so much room to grow for EVs. In addition, if you're a customer that wants a cheaper car, the only car company that's going to be able to sell you a cheap EV is going to be Tesla and maybe BYD, which is based out of China, but that's about it. Those two car companies barely sell more than 2 million cars per year as of today's numbers. And thus pricing power and scale are truly the variables here that we have to think through when we hear these reports. A bigger signal for me would be Tesla cutting prices. If they cut prices, that means that there is less people willing to buy that car at that price, and thus they have to lower the price to get to those customers. But when you have 28% margins and going up, and when you have 15% in operating margins and going up, and two factories in Berlin and Austin that are going to make every car cheaper over time, these fears around recession, the fear around COVID lockdowns, and the supply chain being screwed up, and there not being demand, for me, this doesn't spell doom for Tesla, but it spells doom for every other automaker that's not capable of lowering the cost enough for the public to be able to buy an EV that's profitable for the company, and it also meets the public's needs. And so Tesla China is a huge problem for automakers that don't have that scale and pricing power. My hope is that every automaker is doing everything they can to figure this out. Otherwise, it's going to be a very, very dark next few years. But what do you think? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. If you see a bot, please report it, and let's keep the conversation respectful. If you'd like to talk about this and many other topics with my private community, consider becoming a Patreon. Link for that in the description, or you can sign up as a member right through YouTube as well for Discord access. And if you'd like to support the channel by buying merch, just like the shirt I'm wearing right now, link for that in the description as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful, and we'll see you in the next one. Take it easy, everybody. Mwah. Love you guys. Bye.